Fox News, that guy, Jesse Waters, well, he has a problem with black people and reparations. Here's what he said.
Well, Greg said that what are they preparing them for? They're preparing them to beg for reparations when they're older. This is laying the groundwork. These CRT cartoons on Disney Plus is laying the groundwork for a younger generation of black Americans to demand reparations when they're old enough to do so. Yes, black labor in the South contributed to an enormous amount of wealth for these plantation owners. Black slavery built southern railroads, ports, but not a lot of white people owned slaves in the South, and it was abolished in the North in like 1804. It was never even in the West. So yes, they contributed to building parts of America, but so did the Irish, the English, the Scotch, the Welsh, the Germans. Everybody built America. And when you say who built something, well, who designed it? Who was the architect? Who financed it? Labor's just a part of it. So if we're going to have a conversation about reparations, which I'm open to since I'm 1% black.
Yeah, that's true.
And I might get a check. You have to talk about it accurately.
Jesse, given your massive ignorance, I must conclude that the only person who has received benefit in life because of the color of his skin is you. Now, since you are unaware of the reality of what reparations is and how it works and the contribution of dynamic black folk in America, I'm going to break it down for you, dear brother. And naturally, you can always come to the bullpen and proclaim your point of view. Invitation stands. Let's be very clear. Reparations is simply repair. That's what it is. Reparations is repair. In order for something to be repaired, there must be an acknowledgement that is broken. Do we all agree that America engaged in the protection of a broken system known as slavery? Yes, nobody disagrees with that. Do we all agree that slavery contributed to the massive wealth generation of white folk while at the same time denying that generational wealth for the black workers, the enslaved men and women? Yes, we agree to that. And reparations is something that the American government is actually okay with. I will provide the basis. First of all, you don't think it's ironic, Jesse, that slave masters, plantation owners receive reparations? April 16, 1862. President Abraham Lincoln signed a bill emancipating enslaved people in Washington, the end of the long struggle. But to ease the pain of the white male corrupt slave owner, the District of Columbia Emancipation Act paid those loyal to the Union up to $300 for every enslaved person they freed. That's right. Slave owners got reparations. Enslaved African Americans got nothing for their generations of stolen bodies, snatched children, and expropriated labor other than their mere release from the legal bondage. After World War II, let me remind you of this, reparations again. Congress created the Indian Claims Commission. What was that for? To pay compensation to any federally recognized tribe or land that had been seized by the United States. The results were disappointing for Native Americans. The commission paid out about $1.3 billion, the equivalent of less than $1,000 for each Native American in the United States at the time the commission dissolved in 1978. So America is actually okay with reparations even when they do it wrong. They have done it. What about for the Japanese? The Japanese American Evacuation Claims Act, July 2nd, 1948, provided compensation to Japanese American citizens removed from the West Coast during World War II for losses of real and personal property. Approximately 26,550 claims totaling $142,000 were filed. The program was administered by the Justice Department, which set a $100 million limit on the claims. Over 36,974,240 was awarded. Once again, a reparations methodology, a reparations implementation. One of the claims is that, slavery was just in this, small part of southern states and not really a big deal. Let's go to California. You see, slavery was everywhere, Jesse. By 1860, there were more millionaires, slaveholders all living in the lower Mississippi Valley than anywhere else in the United States. In the same year, the nearly 4 million American slaves were worth some $3.5 billion, making them the largest single financial asset in the United States economy, worth more than all of manufacturing and railroads combined. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Let's go to a guy named Joe Moore. Joe Moore contradicts the narrative through his discoveries about slavery just being in an isolated part of America. There's one problem with the sunny vision of the past. It's simply not true. Though it was admitted to the Union as a free state, slavery still existed in the 1850s, even in places like California. And Moore is leading a project to shed light on its contradictory history. His proof is in print, ladies and gentlemen. In an 1852 ad announcing the public auction of a black man valued at $300, newspaper accounts of fugitive slaves who were arrested and county records certifying slaves bought their freedom from their owners, all in California. Moore and a team of researchers have uncovered these and other often overlooked pieces of California's past after months of digging through the archives of museums, historical societies, and libraries across the state. Jesse, America is not against reparation. You're not against reparation. You're just against reparations for black folk, but it's coming. And listen, we're decent. We're gonna give you your fair share. You will get your 1%. All right, thoughts, dear sister.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jesse Waters is really, making a hard play to be the most ignorant person at Fox News. And that's difficult considering how stiff the competition is over there. Right. But, you mentioned, so much of the history of America that slavery was not just contained in these small bubbles in the South. And I think, something that's really indicative of that is things like the Fugitive Slave Act, which show that all the states played a role in returning slaves who escaped their slavery back to their slave owners. That wasn't just happening in the South. That was requiring all the states, even places where slavery was outlawed, to participate in the institution of slavery. And there's something so insidious about his language of just black labor without including the word forced labor, slave labor, and then him trying to include Irish people, which I'm assuming was his attempt to bring in indentured servitude. And I'll just say this as someone who has Irish heritage to all my fellow Irish Americans: shut up. Indentured servitude was nowhere near the evil that was chattel slavery in this country. To try to pretend that they're even remotely comparable is disingenuous at best and downright disgusting at worst, because they were not. It's not like people who were chattel slaves, black people in America, could buy their freedom, which is something that indentured servants could do. Their children were not born into servitude, which was the case for chattel slaves. And the institution of indentured slavery ended significantly earlier than did the institution of chattel slavery. So to try to make that comparison, Jesse Waters, you're disgusting.
All right, well said.